My name is Debbie Schulich. The nonprofit organization I have chosen to highlight is the Forney Center of New York City. Forney is an LGBTQ center which coincides and is a stepping stool towards same-sex marriage, which the topic of number 3 paper for me. Our mission is to protect lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning youth from the harmless of homelessness and to support them in becoming safe and independent as they move from adolescence to adulthood. That is the mission statement of the Forney Center. The Forney Foundation needs to be supported 100% by the community and the surrounding communities. We cannot let it fail. The center and the staff have invested their time, energy, love, and thus have saved many lives of so many youth. I believe this organization needs to stay afloat. It is beneficiary to the youth in New York City, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and these children questioning themselves seem to be have it quite rough nowadays. You can see the attacks and the bullying being broadcasted on TV around the world. Children being brutally attacked, murdered, or committing suicide. They don't believe that they are safe. New York City has one of the highest crime rates of any city. If a child's parents do not accept them, they have nowhere else to turn. The Forney Center supports homeless, lesbian, gay, bisexuals, and transgender youth between the ages of 15 and 24. They provide children with everything from food to HIV testing, employment assistance, and medical testing. The Forney Center is best known for its emergency and transitional housing. It operates also counseling and has educational programs for their youth. The center was started in June 2002 in response to the lack of safe shelters for LGBTQ youth in New York City. 40% of every 4,000 runaways are LGBT. Statistically speaking, as stated by CNN anchor Aaron Burnett, as many as 25% of the teens are rejected by their families. Most of these children then end up on the street. Homeless LGBTQ teens are more likely to be subjected to violence on the streets and violence in a regular homeless shelter. As a result of this abuse, most teens suffer trauma, substance abuse, and turn to sexual activity, and they also end up contacting HIV. In a 2000 follow-up census, it was reported that 3,800 youths were homeless in New York City, and there were only 250 beds available. The organization was named after a young African-American gay and transgender that went by the name of Luscious, his real name being Ali Heshawn Forney. Luscious was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but raised in New York City. His family rejected him at age 13 after finding out he was gay and wanted to participate in transgender activity. At age 13, Luscious became a prostitute and sold his body for $40 a day. Shortly thereafter, Luscious became addicted to crack cocaine because it eased the pain and eased the fear of selling himself. Luscious was arrested many times and ultimately ended up doing jail time on several different occasions. At 17 years old, Forney began working with the staff at Safe Horizon, street work of New York City, and for the first time acquired a Social Security card. At age 19, he became a peer educator for the youth going through the same thing that he had went through. Tragically, at 4 a.m. on December 5th in 1997, Forney was found shot to death on the sidewalk in front of the housing project on East 133th Street. He happened to be the third transgender murdered in Harlem within the last 14 months. His murder was not solved. Carl Siciliano, the founder of the Forney Center, heard of this story and could never remove it from his mind. Once he found out the statistics of LGBTQ homeless in New York City, he wanted to do something about it. Carl Siciliano is also a gay male. In his previous lifetime, he worked in such areas as the Monastery of the Christ, the Catholic Worker Movement, serving soup and food to the homeless residents, and in 1994 he became dedicated to beginning the Forney Center. With the beginning the center, Carol had to take on much criticism and not much help for others. The mayor included knocked down his idea for an LGBT center as well, but in 2002 he began the shelter and he did hire a small staff. The Forney Center provides short and long-term housing, 32 beds between 6 apartments, free medical care, free HIV testing, showers, food, computers, and job training. Within a year of opening, 7 kids that had lived in the housing shelter took on a job, moved out, and ended up having their own residency. Seeing this positivity, some of the community started to pitch in, and quickly, the Forney Center had a budget of $3.4 million and a staff of 50 people to home and shelter all the homeless LGBTQ youth in New York City. That was not much, but it was doable. The Forney Center Future's goal is to start purchasing houses instead of apartments to hold the youth. Celebrity and bigger names have begun to gain information and hear the positive impact AFC is having on our youth, and they want to help. B. Arthur donated $300,000 to help the AFC's needs. Tracy Morgan also came to the apartment, met with the youth, and gave a hefty donation. The community rallied together in August of 2011 because of their positive outcomes, strong reputation. Children started coming out brighter, happier, educated, and now employed. Therefore, the AFC was awarded $620,000 to go directly towards beds and an annual budget of $5 million. This seemed like the Forney Center is content and sitting pretty financially right now. However, when you go back to the statistics, 3,800 youth or more are homeless. That money does not even touch that amount of the youth to feed and home. Carl Siciliano and his staff created many fundraising events yearly to raise more income. This is an amazing idea. The community comes together to have fun and spend an evening that they won't forget, and it's for a great cause. The AFC spends less than 5% of their revenue on putting these events together, so all that they earn goes directly towards AFC. As a final thought, I would like to share with you an article I found while researching a little bit of information on AFC. In a 2012 blog written by none other than Carl Siciliano, he explains how when LGBTQ are denied shelter after being denied by their families, it can send them spiraling. The article was one of the main things that made my heart, mind, and soul become invested in this cause. Personally, I am already pro same-sex marriage, not a judgmental person, and believe that your sexual preference does not affect the type of person you are. Your physical looks or gender does not reflect the person you are. The article titled "Denied Shelter Beds, Many New York City Turn to Prostitution" explains how Siciliano sat down and spoke with a Brazilian immigrant who was thrown out of his home for being gay. The child spent months trying to get into a shelter. He slept on subways, trains, park benches, anywhere he could possibly sleep. When he became too hungry or cold, he sold his body, and I quote, "Sometimes I do sex work to get something to eat or to get a place to spend the night. It's better than being cold." Siciliano states that this is not the only situation in which occurs, but it is common ground for the homeless youth. It is called survival sex. Survival sex is when one feels they have no other option but to have sex for money or food or shelter or drugs if the situation has escalated to that extreme. The article then concludes that 90% of minors that engage in survival sex that they would stop, but lack of shelters make it impossible. When I read the article, the last statement made my stomach turn. To think that we don't have shelter or homes for the youth of our next generation is sickening. Therefore, I fully support the Forney Center, and I believe others should support it also. Listed at the end of this are names and addresses of how you can help out the AFC Center. I will end my presentation with a quote that I believe sums up the entire idea behind the Forney Center. You never really lived until you've done something for someone who you can never repay.
Great.